49% of people think that they are in the wrong career, right? Which means they are in the wrong lane.
Yep.
They might be quick in that lane. They might be good in that lane. They might be one of the best people, but they might hate it every single day.
In this episode, I speak to Khor from People Coach. We discuss how Christine created a scalable executive coaching business to be inclusive of all leaders within all ranks of an organisation, not just executives. We discuss why people struggle to change career paths even when they know their role is not suitable, and how her passions in supporting women in Uganda through the Hunger Project and empowerment of women in business bring her much meaning and vitality. Just wanted to sort of maybe touch on for our listeners a little bit about yourself, your family, your background to start with.
Yep. Okay. So I am 53 years old now, although I don't feel it, act it, or don't really care about it. I am married with two beautiful boys and a very supportive husband who is an equal partner.
Yes.
Even though people think that I'm the loudest and potentially the boss of the family, that is absolutely not the truth. Simon says less, but has as much say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I was born in Australia, but as I grow older, I do believe I'm becoming more Chinese in some of my values and belief systems. And I'm now at an age which is great where I like who I am and confident in who I am, and also who I am not, which I think is really, really important. I have two businesses at the moment. My primary business, I suppose, or my passion business at the moment is People Coach, which, I was 50 years old, started a tech business. So again, an unheard of, let alone being a woman and Asian and 50. So definitely in the minority there. So any disability allowances I should be getting, I believe there. And I'm a supporter of the Hunger Project, so both on the Victorian and national boards.
I'm actually looking forward to speaking to you about that passion as well, because I know that you're very much involved and and passionate about it. So you mentioned your Chinese heritage. How does your heritage actually influence what you do, and perhaps how you do it? Do you think?
I don't actually think my Chinese heritage impacts what I do. I think the way I've been brought up is part of that. And so there's a couple of things. So I'm first generation Chinese, which meant we had no support here. And I guess the Asian part of it is that drive for education, that drive for learning, that drive to be the best that you can be, especially when you're first generation where everything is put into the children to do their best. So I think there's a pressure that I was brought up with, both from an academic perspective as well as a financial perspective. So there was always concern in my house of, literally, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that has impacted the way I've dealt with money and my relationship with money over the years, which I've now changed the way I relate to money. So that's been interesting. I think Chinese heritage is very patriarchal and very much, females have one role and males have another role. And what I found interesting in that, and especially listening to Julia Gillard today talking about the role of, the support in the family, there was always pressure on me from my father to do better and be better. And, at the time, I felt that I was never loved or acknowledged or, rewarded or anything like that. But when I think back to it now, the fact that my father would say, I always use this example, I got 90 out of 100 in sewing class. And he went, what was the highest mark? And it was always this one girl. And I'd say, blah, blah, blah. Got it. And he said, oh, well, she got 98. Why didn't you get 98? And I remember saying, who cares? It's sewing class. Like, I'm never going to be a seamstress. Like, who cares? And he said, you just need to be the best at what you can be. So I think that's number one, that upbringing. The other part was watching my mother. My mother's an incredibly strong woman. She came over here to Australia at 23. She was on her own. She could hardly speak, I mean, she could speak English, but, she didn't have any friends. She came here to study nursing. She, married my father. She had 2 children. She worked from the time we were, a few months old only. She worked night shift so that my dad could, so she could look after us for day shift. And then, they swapped when he came back from work. And, she was still the traditional mother that literally, like, we're laughing about it now because she gets frustrated with me that I make the children do their own washing, and they have to cook a meal, like, and these are boys, right? They have to cook a meal, they have to do their own washing, they have to make their own lunch, they have to do the dishwasher. And my mother thinks that that's disgusting, that children should do that. And she's like, you never did that. You've never made a meal in my house. You never, and you still don't. Like, I don't go to my mother's house and make a meal. And she said, so she finds that appalling. So, but what she did is she was a director of nursing for many, many years. English is her second language, but she passed, anybody knows anything about the aged care system. She was one of the rare directors of nursing that always passed in their first shot, or the accreditation that was required for nursing homes. So, and because of the work that she does and how amazing she is. So I guess I've always looked at her as a role model of it can be done and it will be done, and balancing that work and life and family is just something that is done.
So is it a care for your family, the work, the conscientiousness that kind of has been passed on from your parents?
I think one, family being the centre,
yes,
is number one. I mean, my parents didn't have anybody else except for each other. And my father was also, and my mother were also the first in both their families. And so they sponsored a lot of their own family here. And I guess that has come to us. I've literally, in the last week, bought a house, or my mother, now moved next door to my mother. So I sold my house, she sold her house. We're now moving next to each other.
Well, that's quite a cultural thing, isn't it, as well, in terms of I've had other clients from an Asian background as well, where they will actually look after their parents in a very, I suppose, physical way, for want of a better term, into when they're sort of aging.
So let's just, there's a line there, right? So I've got to I look after my mother.
Yes.
However, I won't live with my mother.
Yeah.
so it was a really clear delineation there of sure. I love you. Yes. I'll care for you.
Yes.
But I'm not living with you, and I'm not sharing my kitchen with you.
Yeah.
So we have, separate fridges, separate, pots, separate everything. We can eat together if we choose. We don't have to see each other every day, but it's only been a couple of weeks, so we are. But I think that it's important that that she's looked after. And I guess the traditional part of me is, as much as it is in my control, I will not have her in a nursing home. So that part, I suppose, is very Asian.
Yes, makes sense. So there's, I know, as a son of migrants as well, I know there's certain occupations that are were pushed, or not so much in my family, actually, that would be unfair, but there are certain occupations I know in our culture that are kind of pushed over others. And is that the same with your background?
Oh my God! So I was supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer, and I like to say I don't know whether it was self-destructive behaviour, as in not, getting the marks to get in. I don't know whether it was lack of talent or lack of effort, but, I didn't get the marks to get into either law or medicine, to which I am so pleased, because I would not have been good at either of those professions. Especially because I like to speak in simple terms, and neither of those professions use language simply. So that's number one. It was interesting, actually. My mother then didn't really talk to me for a while, because she was so disgusted that I couldn't get into the courses that they had worked so hard or paid all those school fees to get me into. My father then, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but actually just said, Well, the only thing that you can do now, because you're not smart enough to be a doctor or a lawyer, is to get a job in government, job as a teacher or job as a nurse, because they're the jobs that you can do when you have children and you can work part-time while your husband makes money, which was really quite bizarre for me, given the fact that I had always been, a smart, student. And I did go to a great private school where they spent a fortune, like if you think about percentage of earnings of what they were paying for our education versus what they actually earned. They were, my mum's a nurse and my dad, we owned he worked for the post office, but we also had a grocery store. So we weren't, they weren't earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, put it that way. So by percentage, sending my brother and myself to private school was a huge commitment. For him to then say, well, now that you're not a doctor, you can only be a nurse, a teacher, or work in government where you can't get sacked, was something quite bizarre. The reality is, what my parents did give me was the ability to make my own decisions and stand up for myself. And I always laugh with my dad that he loved it when I did that to other people. He hated it when I did it to him. And I remember saying to him, Dad, you've trained me this way. This is on you and you can't turn it off when it suits you. And, making me be submissive when it's you, but, standing up for myself with everyone else is not going to work. So, I continued on. I've done an arts degree. I did an arts degree. And look, from then I've had continuous learning. I think I've got 4 or 5 degrees. I'm actually talking to my husband about doing a PhD, a master's in psychology. And he's like, can you just stop for 5 minutes?
Yeah. You don't have 2 levels, right? It's just, just go, right?
Yeah. So look, so I do believe in education. I am curious about learning and development.
Yeah. Do you think that you have to ever check yourself with your own kids around the sort of things that you do out of care and love that, our parents do as well, that can actually be limiting to them?
God, yeah. Every single day.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that we're brought up with that are unconscious.
Yes.
That we don't even know that we're saying or doing. There's so many ways of the same message to be misinterpreted by 2 different people. I mean, you think that I have 2 children, right? You think that you treat them the same, but you ultimately don't, because they are different human beings. And even if you say things in the same way, they may hear it in a different way. I think where I'm particularly blessed in this respect is that my husband is not backwards and coming forwards to tell me that it's not okay. And actually my children have been brought up to also say the same thing. And I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah, please.
So we had the NAP plan tests.
Oh, yeah.
So stupid NAP plan.
Yep.
And we're sitting there and my oldest son had always been, there's a little triangle at the top that shows that you're in the top 10% or, you're X amount of levels above the average or whatever it is. Anyway, so every time in grade 3, grade 5, whatever the years are, he's always in this little triangle up the top. Anyway, he gets to his year 7 one, or I can't even remember which one. And there's a few of them where he's not in the little triangle. He's further down. He's above average, but he's not as high up. And I just went, and this is to the oldest son, I said, oh, what happened there? What's happened with that? And he went, Mum, it's NEP plan. Who cares? And I said, I know. I'm just asking. I'm just curious. How come, you've always been in the top triangle. How come you're not in these? And then the little one went, Mum, just stop it. He's smart enough. It's fine. And my husband looked at me and he went, Chris, pull your head in. Like, just stop it. And I'm like, I'm not being critical. I'm just asking a question. I'm curious to see why you're not at the top. And they all just went, I'm not answering that, Mum, because it's good enough. And what
do you think?
So to me, I was being curious. I just wanted to know, you're always here and now you're here. What's happened?
Yes. And
they were like, you're criticizing. It's not okay to criticize. He's still doing well. It's bloody NAP plan. Who cares?
And where was there, if you really reflected on that comment, do you feel that there was a little bit of, I suppose, worry?
There was no worry.
No, it was no worry. Okay.
There's no worry, because I also go, it's NAP plan. It's one test.
Yep.
Out of context that no one's ever going to look at in their lifetime, right?
Yes.
And there's far more important things to someone's success versus intellect and being in the little top triangle of a NAPLAN's floor in 20 years ago.
True.
But I guess, again, intent does not mean impact. So my intent was curious.
Yes.
Curious. You're always here. What happened? Like, is it getting harder? Do you have a bad teacher? Are you not interested in that subject? They're the things that I wanted to understand.
Yes.
What they heard was me criticizing.
Yes. That's completely right? Understand. Yep.
So I think it's really important to then listen to that and be courageous enough as a parent, and whether you're a parent, a leader, a businessman, a business founder, to listen and understand what the motivations are. Like, quite easily I could have got annoyed, quite easily, or they could have got annoyed. They could have, said, why are you always criticizing me for not being smart enough? Or I could have gone, do you know how much money I'm paying for your school fees? Why aren't you in the top? We could have gone down that road, but instead it ended up being a really funny conversation where I was like, I feel ganged up on now. I'm just and you're on picking on me, and I'm out. Like, so, and I just, hopped up. We were actually in bed that morning, and I got up, and that was the end of that.
What a great family dynamic, though. I mean, it's important that we, even our kids are involved in checking. It's absolutely, you're building a great capability in your children by them able to check you, because we're all fallible, aren't we? So. Yeah. Okay. I think that's an interesting conversation. I actually wanted to delve into a little bit more about people coach, actually, a little bit about your business experience and your passion now with your current business. One thing that comes to mind when I speak to you, it's sort of passion and sort of intensity and energy. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about that with our listeners.
So people coach is my third career. Let's talk about it like that. And so I'll just give you some buckets. So my first 15 years of my career was working in blue chip organizations in marketing roles. I was at Kraft Foods, which is now Mondelez. I worked at Hallmark Cards. I worked at Simplot, who owns Edgell Vegetables and John West, etc. And so I was marketing there. And when I was there, I saw a real gap in the market. And that was that when you dealt with a recruitment agency, most of the people in those recruitment agencies didn't actually understand marketing. And what they were trying to do is put people into a box. So if you've worked in a food marketing role, I'm going to send you to the next food marketing role, and I just felt that there was a gap missing. So a girlfriend and I started our first business, and we were called Market Partners, and our positioning was sales and marketing people recruiting for sales and marketing roles. And that business has been going in different iterations for the last 20 years.
So this was agnostic to industry, like what you're saying.
Agnostic to industry, but focused on the function, which is sales and marketing.
Yes.
And so we started that in December 2000. It's still going today, so 21 years old. We've had different iterations. We grew the business. We had Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. We had business partners, whatever. We got embezzled. We had fallout with bad partners. We had all sorts of different things. And, we're back down to being a Melbourne-based organisation. But and part of my goal there was always about how do we build capability and love for what you do, right? And build competence. So whether it was, and for me, it was around building strong careers, because work was always, very important to me. So how do I help people build the career they want? But also, how do I help organizations build the capability and the teams that they want? But after a number of years, what I realized is that I wasn't making the impact that I wanted to make, right? And I also realized that whilst I'm good at recruitment and I quite love the process of recruiting when I'm doing it, I actually, by this stage, sort of after 15 years or so, I didn't love running a recruitment business. And they're two different things, right? Loving to cook doesn't mean you want to own a restaurant.
That's true.
So loving to, recruit doesn't mean I want to run a recruitment business after so many years. So, but what I realized that I loved doing was working with people one-on-one, really understanding what are the things that are blocking the individual from achieving what they could become, what they could be. And that's where I went back to school. I did a coaching qualification, and I brought executive coaching into Khor's executive, into that business.
Mm-hmm.
Happily did that for a number of years, was working with some amazing senior executives, because the current way that coaching is delivered is very one-on-one, very bespoke, and very expensive.
So just to get this right, you actually sort of integrated the coaching sort of side of it into the recruitment side of it. And okay, because it was just purely recruitment at a particular point in time. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So Khor's executive, and we still do this, is we do, executive recruitment, executive coaching, and leadership branding.
Yes.
Right. So we do those things. And I really loved doing that. But what I realized after a couple of years is I could see the impact that I was making on individuals. I could see the impact I was making on organizations and teams because of the impact of the individuals. But I also realized that I was only ever dealing with the most senior people in organizations, and the majority of those people were men. And the reality is that at $1,000 or $500 or $1,500 a coaching session, you can only afford as an organization to support your most senior executives. That's where you think you're going to get your biggest bang for buck. But for me, it was like, well, hold on a minute. If we're actually going to have truly successful, sustainable, diverse, innovative businesses, we actually need a pipeline of different talent coming through, and that different talent needs the support to get there.
That completely makes sense.
Right. So my question then was, how can I do what I'm doing? Because this is going to sound arrogant, but I'm a good coach. How do I do that, but give it to more people? Because in a way that's accessible, that it's a way that's, from a time perspective, that we all, one great equalizer is time, right? So how could I do that? And that's where the idea of People Coach came up.
So what if you could distill for us what is executive coaching, and now that you're looking at it being more of a kind of accessible service to people who maybe not in executive levels or in managerial levels even, what does it become?
So when you have a coach that works with you, they are an objective, independent, confidential support for you, who is not your friend, who will listen to you, challenge your assumptions, and encourage you and push you to see other possibilities. That's our role, to show you the blind spots. And I'm going to give you an example. If you think about an Olympic coach for a swimmer, for example, right? Those Olympic coaches may not have been Olympians themselves. They may not be the fastest swimmer or the best gymnast or whatever. But what they do is they stand on the outside of you, so that when you're, swimming and you're putting your one arm over the next arm, you, being the swimmer, cannot see that your little pinky's sticking up in the air, right? Because you're swimming. Right? And you're worried about your legs and your breathing and all the other 9 fingers that you've got. So you don't see the one finger that's sticking out. What the coach is doing on the outside is watching every single part of you, and then will say to you, hey, Joe, if you put your little pinky down, you will swim 0.2 of a second quicker. And that's what could get you the Olympic gold. That is what a coach does. We sit beside you, we listen to you, we observe you, we challenge you, and we ask you about the things that could be stopping you by stopping you get gold, by showing you or highlighting the things to you that you cannot see because you're in it.
Okay. So using that swimming analogy more poorly and less aptly, would you say that it's about keeping them in their lane, or is it also about being able to allow them to transition and change out of their lanes?
No, there's no lanes.
There's no lanes.
There's no lanes.
Good.
So it is around here's the important, identifying which lanes you want to be in. Many people, in fact, research says like 49% of people think that they're in the wrong career. I don't mean the wrong business. I mean the wrong career. I mean people who want to be a lawyer or an accountant, people that want to own a Airbnb or a restaurant, being in, a doctor. I'm talking about people, 49% of people think that they are in the wrong career, right? Which means they are in the wrong lane.
Yep.
They might be quick in that lane. They might be good in that lane. They might be one of the best people, but they might hate it every single day.
We've all seen footballers, haven't we, that just decide to retire early because they just can't deal with it. They don't love it. They don't. Yeah.
And look, when I made my changes to Khor Executive, the recruitment business, there were so many people that said to me, oh my God, how risky is that? You're so brave. You're investing in a tech startup. You're 50 and you're mortgaging your house to invest more in a tech business. What do you know about tech? Oh, aren't you worried about the children and the school fees and the mortgage and the blah, blah, blah? Yes, yep. We're worried about all those things. But I was in the wrong lane. I had been in that recruitment lane for 20 years and I no longer wanted to be in that lane. And I'll tell you something, you cannot be amazing at what you do if you don't like it. And I didn't like it, so I wasn't amazing anymore. And then that made me sad. And the more I wasn't amazing and the sadder I got, the more grumpy I was at home and the sicker I got and all sorts of different things. And so I had to have my first midlife crisis, which happened at 45, and it happened in Uganda with the Hunger Project, where I had to really look at myself and say, I've got a long life to live. How am I going to live it? I'm going to live it in a lane that someone else gives me, or I'm going to create my own road. And that's what I've done.
So in some ways, when people say you take a risk, I mean, the alternative for you is just not negotiable, right? Like the alternative is just a life of anxiety and stress and no
unhappiness.
Unhappiness, yeah.
Because look, why do people have bad relationships and fight with their partners? Well, lots of reasons. I'm not saying this, but one of the reasons is if you're not happy in your work, if you're feeling obligated that you have to go to work to earn the big money or earn any money at all to feed a lifestyle and feed a mortgage and holidays and things, but you actually physically hate what you're doing for 8 hours of the day, which is never 8 hours a day because you're driving there, you're driving back, you're worrying about it, you're complaining about your co-workers, all those sort of things. If you're doing that and then coming home and you're looking at your partner and you're looking at how they're spending money, or you're looking at, and you're thinking, God, you annoy me, and I have to go and do that for 8 hours a day so that you can do this. Like, that's horrible.
Oh, it is horrible. And it sounds like what you're saying is that work can actually inform the lens in the way we see the world, Yeah.
Completely. Yep. I mean, look, I coach lots of people, as I said, and I had one person who said to me they really hated their job. They had mental health issues because of it. They were, depressed. They were losing weight. They were all sorts of things. And their partner had said, but you have to earn that money because we've got this house, we've got the kids in school, we've got this. And it was a female, and she actually said, oh, so I'm the bank. So what happened out of that, and they nearly divorced over this, that what she felt, she didn't feel like she was a mother or a wife or a partner or a friend. She felt like she was the ATM. And that happens to many people. It happens to more men than it happens to women because more men are the primary breadwinner, more men. And trust me when I coach with men, I have the same conversation. Of men not being able to make the choices that they would love to make because they are the bank.
Yep, different problems based upon stereotypes and traditions, right? Yeah, correct. Yeah. So what do you think holds people back from actually being able to change their career and move on to something else? Fear, yeah. What sort of things do you think? What do you think? Fear. What are the reservations?
Okay, so fear of what people will think.
Yep.
Fear of not being able to provide for your family. Fear that actually not being as good as you thought you were. Fear of going backwards, whatever backwards is. Fear of failing it, obviously. Fear of not being loved. right? So if my role is as the primary breadwinner to make sure that we pay the mortgage and pay the school fees, and I can no longer do that, then what is my role?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Am I actually lovable as a human being, and will my kids or my partner, male or female, still need me?
Yeah.
And what will my friends think? Suddenly I can't go out to dinner like that anymore, or we can't join them all at Aspen, or I don't know. I've never been to Aspen, but
Neither have I.
you can't join them on the holiday at Noosa or whatever it may be because we don't have the money. And even the pride and the fear of saying, I can't afford that.
Mm-hmm. So
I don't care.
So what do you think like to people who are listening now that might have a little bit of agitation in them? This conversation can be agitating for some because they might be feeling, I'm not in the right role, I'm frustrated, I'm also taking the fear option, which is completely legitimate. You know, it's something that, you know, we've all done. Oh. You know, what is the advice that you could give them to start them moving in the direction that they need to move for happiness, for meaning?
So for me,
yes,
I looked at my life and I said to myself, do I want to live like this for the next 35 years?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a resounding F you.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is just no way that I was going to live like that for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And that was it.
Yep.
Right? So I think for people to ask themselves, is this the life that I want? And secondly, and most importantly, right, if this was your child and your child felt unfulfilled, if your child felt unhappy in what they're doing, if your child felt that they were only good enough because they were earning a lot of money to support other people, what would you say to your child? You'd be saying to your child, no, let's work out how you can be happy and you can thrive in doing something that you love to do. Let's work that out. Because when you say, what would you say to a friend? Well, you know, the only love that you truly have that is totally without wanting anything back is to your child, right? That's the one that you just like, whatever I can do, I will die for this person.
Yes.
So would you want them to live the life that you've got? And if you say no, then you've got to do something about it. And I truly believe that, right? Because what I didn't want is my children to think that they had to go to work and do all these things to earn money, to buy a house, to go on European holidays, blah, 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 to be miserable. And that's what they were seeing in me. So I remember when we had that first discussion about changing my business and investing in this business, we actually sat down, my little one was probably only 7 or 8. And we had the discussion about, you know, there'll be less money in the house. I will be home more, but there's less money in the house. This is what's going to happen. These are the changes. Here are the risk factors. Here is this, here's that. So we were all clear. We'd worked out worst case scenario. No, none of it happened. Absolutely none of it happened. But we had discussed it. They were aware of it. And they all, and what do kids want? Kids want their parents to be happy.
That's right. So in the end, from what you said earlier, the outcomes for being fulfilled and have meaning in your life, in your work place, has a huge impact on everything else and the decisions you make going forward. So by definition, it sounds like you're setting yourself up for a much better outcome if you do take the seemingly financial risk to actually make a transition and make a change.
But what is the risk? So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
We all talk about like you're my financial planner.
Yeah.
I actually don't even really know day to day how much money I've got or haven't got. I actually don't know, right? And the reason why I don't know is because I'm loving what I do so much. You asked me the same question 5 years ago when I was entrenched in this business that I wasn't loving, that, you know, things were going, and I would know on a daily basis because that's the only way I could measure my success was, am I financially stable, right? The only way.
So this is the relationship with your money that you were talking about. This is the
relationship with money. Whereas now, my financial stability it's not about being stable. Like, I will always have somewhere to live. I will always have something to eat, you know, and I worked out that the day that I feel poor is the day that I can't buy a bottle of champagne, right? So you know, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't measure it by that. I measure it of how much impact am I making each day? How inspired am I today?
Mm-hmm.
How have I helped someone today?
Mm-hmm.
How have I moved forward in achieving my mission in ensuring that every person who needs an experienced coach gets one? How have I done this today? And when I can say yes to one or any of those questions, I've had a great day, irrespective of the money that I've made.
Yep.
Now, let's not be unrealistic here, right? Money is important.
Yes.
We need money.
Agreed.
I like champagne. I don't like Prosecco. So, you know, I've got to have, you know, I've got to have money. I like shoes. I like things, right? I like holidays. I like all those things. So I'm not saying money's not important.
Yeah.
But I am saying, how much do you actually need?
Yes.
And I've balanced that out.
Yes. So the primary motives from why you started People Coach, it sounds like the drivers and the motivations weren't primarily money.
No. Equity.
Yes.
It's equity and accessibility.
Yes. In our discussions with Chris, she talks about the fact that sometimes our role within an organisation can feel fixed due to an overwhelming feeling that we financially would be compromising our family's financial prosperity if we took the risk to change. This risk, however, is ultimately linked to our happiness and meaning in life. So shouldn't we have a very strong review of our financial capability to change lanes? Our team at Stefan Independent Advisory, which is the engine that fuels this pod, have found that the risk to our financial prosperity in changing roles within a business or organisation, or even retiring, may not be as severe as emotionally felt. In our special report, Leading a Family, Leaving a Legacy, we illustrate the key worries and risks that keep business owners up at night, which includes the owner's capacity to continue to generate an income for the family post-exit of the business or career change. This resource is made available to our community at our website at www.itsneveraboutmoney.com.au. Now back to Chris. In the second half, we discuss how Chris was able to take a very human interaction intensive business and create a scalable business model. We talk to her about her passions in supporting the Hunger Project and women's empowerment in business. You know, a good segue into, you know, the fact that when you did start People Coaching, you're thinking about like, well, I need to actually be able to provide this service to more people and in a more kind of organized way. Obviously, the pricing point was making it sort of out of the reach of some employees. How did you go about actually putting together something that which is requiring a lot of human interaction, actually, something that could be accessed and still be profitable from a business perspective?
So there's three parts to it, I guess. The first part is the pricing model was created based on consumer insight or business insight of, you know, how much money is allocated to an individual for their training and development, right? So that's the bucket I had to work with. I then looked at, you know, what could I automate? So what we've done is we've automated, we've codified certain parts of the coaching process. So creating questions, creating webinars, creating exercises that people do in their own time. So it's a bit more of a self-serve coaching in that sort of sense. That you as the coachee have to do a lot more work versus in an executive coaching responsibility, the coach would sit there and ask you lots of questions, you would just answer, and then they would fill out, you know, all the notes and whatever. But the third part and the most important part is finding people that are aligned to your mission. Right. The only way that I can deliver exceptional service at that price point is by finding exceptional coaches who who believe in our mission of accessibility, of equal opportunity and fairness, and diversity and inclusion, and who are willing to give back as well. So so at the core, when we do our recruitment for our coaches, at the core of what we do is I mean, there's some basic hygiene factors, like have you got a coaching qualification? Have you worked in business? Have you led a team? They're the hygiene factors.
Mm-hmm.
Many people have those things.
Mm-hmm.
What are the differentiators is the values of
Mm-hmm.
the individuals that we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And all our coaches have a real sense that this emerging leader group. So our target is this emerging leader group. So anywhere in that mid-level, maybe 2 to 3 years experience, and it could be up to 15 or 20 years experience, but in that middle management,
Mm-hmm.
who've generally not had any one-on-one support.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the belief system of our coaches who know that they're the people that can make or break an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you have an exceptional CEO, but useless middle management, you might have great ideas, but they'll never be executed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you need to have, especially now with COVID and post-COVID, you need to have that strong executive, that middle management level to execute what's required. And so by attracting people who believe in our mission
Mm-hmm.
and want to be part of that journey,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we're able to deliver what we deliver. I've got the most incredible coaches that you'll ever meet, and they are because they're passionate about their craft and they're
Mm-hmm.
passionate about the impact that they can make, and they feel obligated to share what they've got for the better of businesses, individuals, and ultimately society.
What's the difference between actually in your, I suppose, your feelings of enjoyment and meaning, the difference between actually engaging in the coaching, the physical coaching yourself with people, versus actually knowing that your business is being able to spread further and touch more lives? Is, you know, can you kind of quantify or qualify the difference?
So, now I don't know if I can quantify it, but I can say that every day I wake up and it's different.
Yeah.
And I get enjoyment from coaching a person one-on-one and seeing the spark, seeing the realization, seeing the opportunity to change and make a difference.
Yes.
As a one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
But I also get as equal amount enjoyment knowing that we've just landed a new client in the US. So we just landed a new client in the US. And so now there's going to be another 20 people in the world. They're going to get access to a coach that will change them. So, you know, if I don't think I would want a life of either or. I wouldn't want to just be the CEO and founder without any hands-on coaching, but I also probably wouldn't want to just be coaching every day, because you know, it's very important for me for well, one, impact, progress, and variety. Like I love change. I love the fact that I'm doing different things at different times, and you know, it excites me, and I'm learning. I mean, being a founder of a tech business in this day, I'm learning something new every single day. I'm also making mistakes.
Yes, we all do. We all do. And if we don't acknowledge those, then we're going to probably make worse mistakes.
Absolutely. Yep.
I really wanted to talk to you about some of your passions, because I know the empowerment of women has already come up in business, and also you're heavily involved in a hunger project. Can you speak to both aspects of that in your life?
Yeah. So it's about taking risks. So have I always felt that, you know, we should do more for women? Yes. To be honest, I've also thought that women should do more for themselves. Right. And so I've always had that approach that I do it for myself. And not to say that I haven't had support from other people. I have had a lot of support. So what happened though, I was absolutely miserable when I was 45. And this is what I was talking about like working hard and looking at the dollars, but actually not being fulfilled at all. And I saw this opportunity. I remember it so clearly. It was 9:30 at night. I was working. My computer was in the kitchen. My husband was doing the dishes, and this thing popped up from Business Chic saying, "Come to Uganda with the Hunger Project." And I turned around to my husband and I said, "I want to go to Uganda." And he said, "Go." And I was like, oh, don't be stupid. We've got a 2-year-old child. We've got this business. It was, near the GFC. It was blah, 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 all these things. And he just said, you're just such a pain in the ass. You really need to go. Like, you need to do something. Anyway, long story short, like, of course, I didn't think I should go. My mother was telling me, you've got a little baby, you can't go. Everyone's saying it's a really stupid thing to do. Going to Uganda, where is that? I even had my ex-boyfriend ring me and say, you shouldn't go there. It's very dangerous. I'm like, it's none of your business. You're my ex-boyfriend and I've got a husband now. Anyway, so anyway, long story short, I went. And here's the thing. I was 45. I had my first child at 36. I had my second child at 40. I nearly died when I had my second child. And when I arrived in Uganda and I heard the stories of the women, I heard how they, have to walk 20 kilometers to get to the doctor. I heard about the mortality rates. I heard about the lack of food. I heard about what I realized at that point is that if I had been born anywhere else, or if I'd been born there, it didn't matter how good my mum and dad were, it didn't matter how intelligent I am, didn't matter what my work ethic is, I would be dead. Right? And pretty much from that day on, how I've lived my life is I'm lucky to be here and I'm not going to waste it. So, they tell those stories of when someone has a car accident and survives or gets cancer and they survive and you re-look at your life. That was like my cancer moment, I guess. Touch wood, nothing happens that way. But it was like I saw my life, what it could have been if I'd been born somewhere else. I saw that the things that I was worrying about, that I was caring about, that I was, frustrated about was all man-made problems. Me saying I don't have enough money or I don't have, was like, I have enough, like the problems that I was dealing with, the women in Uganda would think they'd be lucky to have those problems.
Yeah.
I'm blessed.
Yes.
And so I'm worrying about stupid things. And so I came back and literally, I came back and I changed pretty much everything in my life except for my husband. So I changed where the kids were going to school. I changed where we're going to live. I changed the business model. I changed my business partners. I went back to school. Like I did everything literally except for change him.
So the wonderful thing about not changing Simon is that he was the seed, or I suppose he was the one that really pushed you to go there to begin with, and he's been such a support of you as well, hasn't he? I mean,
he calls me a pain in the ass. I mean, that's not very nice.
Well, it's not true. But he got you going.
He got me going. Yeah. That's important, to have that cheerleader. And what I will say, I've got a number of cheerleaders in my corner. My husband is definitely one of them. And you need a cheerleader to cheer you when you can't cheer yourself.
That's such a good point.
And what I'm going to call out to women out there, women, we hold on to people who no longer cheer us because of some sense of obligation. I've known her a long time. I don't want to hurt her feelings. She doesn't mean it. Like, get rid of them. If people do not feel good when you leave them, and I'm not saying every time you see somebody, because everybody annoys you sometimes, right? But if you every time you meet someone and go out with them or talk to them and you feel bad about yourself afterwards, or you're not happy, get it out. Like, time, again, great equalizer. We don't have much of it. Do not waste it with people feeling bad about yourself. That is just not okay.
Givers versus takers, right?
Oh.
Yep. Completely understand. It sounds like the, financial contributions, the energy, the personal exertion that you undertake with the Hunger Project is really a sense of gratitude from you in terms of where you are in your life. It's like you're paying back.
There's a couple of things. A couple of things. One, when you see something, sometimes you can't unsee it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So me seeing firsthand what happens to women in India, in Bangladesh, in, Uganda and Malawi, I cannot then walk away and come back to my life with my, ergonomic chair and my special face creams, because now I'm over 50, and live a life feeling that it's okay. Like, I can't do that. So that's number one. So I actually can't let it go.
Yes.
So I feel we have an obligation. I feel, secondly, that it's important to, so have that obligation. I enjoy it. I get more out of it working with people that are so giving without wanting something back. So every person that I'm on the board with gives their money, their time, their networks, their love without any expectation. Right? I'm not, when I don't expect that when I go to Malawi that they're going to say thank you very much for the check that you wrote. Like, I expect nothing back from anybody. So giving without expectation is a really big gift to learn. And the third part is I have to be a role model to those people around me, most importantly, my children. So my children, I support the Hunger Project, and we have a youth board with the Hunger Project. And the youth board is under 30s, and they've started a giving circle. And in this giving circle, what the youth board was saying is, if you can give anywhere from $10 to $50 a month, can you do that? So the email came out to me, and I just said to my kids, so my kids are 16 and 12, and I said to them, the youth board are doing a giving circle. They're asking for between $10 and $50 a month, and it's a commitment for whatever. And they both went, oh yeah, absolutely. So out of their pocket money and out of their Chinese New Year money and their birthday money, they are both now giving $10 a month. Now,
does Grandma know about this?
Not yet. She'll probably give them the money to give it to them. But the fact is that they both without hesitation went, oh, $10 a month, that's $120, no problem, Mum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So what that means is when they're 20 or 30, that they will not even think twice about giving $50 a month or $100 a month or whatever it may be. And that's important. Giving without expecting anything back. It's so critical, especially for our youth now.
It's wonderful. I've heard this now. This is the second episode in a row now that I've actually heard. The last one I spoke to was Anthony Phillips, who talked about this intergenerational transfer of a giving culture that you've just actually pointed to again, as it doesn't have to be about a lot of money. It's the intention, right?
Yeah. And just bringing it into their vocabulary and just in what they do. Like, it's just, that's what you do. You give money. And it was interesting actually, because when I set up the direct debits from their accounts, I accidentally did it twice. Like, so for the first one, I put $10 twice. So that first month they both gave $20. And I said, oh, sorry, I set that up incorrectly. Do you want me to give you the $10 back? Because that was my mistake. I took it from your accounts. And they both went, oh, no, Mum, it's all right. It's only $20. It's fine. Now, that could say something about the fact that they've got too much money and they're spoiled little buggers. But, it also does say that they both acknowledge that it's okay, that they can cope with that for that time, and they weren't going to go without. Like, there was no sense of scarcity for them, that they were going to go without because they gave this extra $10 this particular month.
How do you define your success?
So how I define my success is how much I laugh in the day. So whether that's with my children, my husband, people I speak to, people I coach, how do I interact? Do I feel that when and here's the other thing, one of my values is inspiration. So in every interaction, I want to feel inspired and I want to inspire. So at the end of the day, when I think about the day, have I felt that I've inspired people around me? And have I felt inspired by something, right? So have I read a book? Have I done a yoga session? Have I, listened to somebody that has made me feel inspired? And when I can say those two things, then I feel I've had a great day.
So it's really like a soul nutrition type thing, like.
Well, here's the thing. If you do a good job, the money will come. It comes.
Yes.
In the end.
Yep. Abundance mentality, right? Yep.
It'll all come in the end.
Yep. What keeps you up at night? What's still to do?
Nothing keeps me up at night from a worry perspective anymore. I mean, I did have a few heart attacks with, moving house with my mother and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But generally not a lot now. I used to stay up a lot pre with my old relationship with money. I used to stay up a lot worrying about this and worrying about that, and are we going to make this, and how much profit have we made, and who's cheating me here, and who's not working hard enough, and who's working too hard, and blah, 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 right? And now I don't have that anymore. I look at the other outcomes and other levels of success, which means that, I sleep much better.
Would you change anything about the business right now?
Well, we are looking for investors.
Yes. So you would. So this is about, again, when you look for investors, this is about expanding the offering, which is giving you meaning. So there's nothing underhanded or cynical about that. If you've got it right, if you've got the service right.
Yep. So look, as the pitch, we hit a little bit of a wall at the beginning of COVID, as you can imagine.
Yes.
But since about September last year, we have realised that, businesses have realised that real gap in the market, and the fact that traditional ways of delivering leadership development are not viable anymore. Flying everybody in for a 2-day course and then flying them back out is not going to happen. So,
no.
So the way we offer our virtual coaching, et cetera, is really important. And we have every metric. We're now 30 to 100% above where we were same time last year. Customers, participants, average purchase size, all those things are up. And we've never really had a no. We've just had a not for now, because and the not for now is budget's not right, or we've got another supplier at this moment, but we really like what you're doing. And so we're looking to expand. We've already got customers in US and UK, New Zealand, and obviously Australia. And now's the time.
What does leading a family mean to you?
I don't lead a family. I'm part of a family. So I'm not quite sure what I guess, what I see is.
Do you see yourself in a leadership? Do you see yourself in a leadership position within your family, like with your kids? And I suppose that's kind of the question.
Of course. So yes and no. I am a leader. I believe everyone's a leader, whether you're 12 or whether you're 53, right? Everyone's a leader.
Yep.
And because it's the way we turn up, it's the way we listen, it's the way we treat people, it's the way we problem solve, it's the way we manage our own emotions, it's all those things. So I expect everyone in my family to be a leader. Of course, I have a greater responsibility because I am the adult. I do, buy the food, I do pay the bills, I do bring the money in. So there's a role there. But I definitely see that children can teach you as much as you teach them, and sometimes they can teach you things that are far more important and far more pure than what we are teaching them, because sometimes what we teach them are old paradigms and our own fears and our own mistakes that we say, don't do that because I did that and I failed, and so you shouldn't do that. But actually, if they did it, they might have done it in a different way and be amazing. So I think that the fact that children have no fear, the fact that they don't think things through sometimes, the fact that they're still curious, I learn from them as much as they learn from me, I feel.
Amazing. Okay. So as a secondary to that, what does legacy mean to you?
So for me, the legacy is in the impact that you've made. So my legacy is when I go, if I know that my children are happy, can look after themselves, are doing what they like, believe in themselves and are kind, that will be my legacy. They need to be self-sufficient, so they need to be able to look after themselves, which is really important.
So last question, very important one. What animal would you be and why?
Yeah, isn't that funny, right? So I looked at that, and so I wrote gut instinct, lioness.
Lioness. I love it.
I asked my husband, he said tiger.
Mm.
And I then thought, I actually really like leopard skin. So
it's in the big cat family.
It's in the big cat. So it's one of those, tiger, lioness, or leopard.
What's your star sign? Is it Leo?
Libra.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned before inspiration and making sure that you give off that vibe with every interaction you have. From my perspective, this has been a really enlightening conversation. It's been an inspiration. I knew it would be. You're full of beans. I knew it was going to be go, and I'm really looking forward to sending this episode out because I think there's a lot to be learned from our conversation. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
No problem.
I hope that this one was enjoyable to listen to and there were some moments of value. If you have resonated in any way with the sentiments of this podcast, we would be delighted to direct you to our website, www.itsneveraboutmoney.com.au, for more free resources and education aimed at improving your capacity to make sound financial decisions for the benefit of your family. We wish you every success, however you define it.